The Fourth Great War had reached its final bloody stage, a nightmare that raged on for 3 brutal days. And so, the demon commander, Ramon McKnight, became a name feared by all. But that memory fades as his eyes snap open. He's lying in a forest, completely bewildered. He sits up, having the worst post-nap confusion ever. But something feels incredibly wrong. He stares down at his own hands, realizing the fatal wounds he had are completely gone. A gentle breeze rustles past his face. He tries to make sense of it all, asking himself where in the world he could be. The view before him is a vast, peaceful landscape. He wonders if this is what the afterlife looks like. After all the lives he took, he was sure he was bound for hell. But a sharp voice cuts through his thoughts. A tiny, very unimpressed fairy scolds him for being dramatic. Ramon stares, completely taken aback by her appearance. Apparently, the afterlife has much higher standards for its greeters. The fairy seems embarrassed by her own outburst, but Ramon's expression turns serious as he faces her. He asks if this is truly the world after death. He remembers the mortal wounds that should have been his end. The fairy states the obvious: this is the land of the living. Because she's not dead. Ramon is left completely lost, trying to process it all. He asks what happened to the human-demon war, but she only recognizes it as a battle from 1,000 years ago. A war, she adds, that humanity won, leaving Ramon utterly stunned. She explains that after the war, humans began hunting her kind. Now, so few fairies remain that she must stay hidden. Ramon finds this ironic, since his demon army was on good terms with them. The fairy is just surprised he hasn't tried to capture her like others would. He gives a sheepish smile, admitting he's a little different. The weight of it all finally settles in, 1,000 years later. He thanks the fairy for the information and prepares to leave. She looks up at him, genuinely concerned for his well-being. Ramon just says he'll wander for a while and see what he can find. With a final wave, he walks off alone into a world he no longer recognizes. He walks through the undergrowth, his mind drifting. He wonders if his old comrades survived the war, when a sudden scream cuts through the silence. He turns to see the fairy caught in a rough grasp. A group of men sneer, having captured their prize. Ramon's gaze sharpens instantly. The captors turn, sensing his presence. The fairy looks over, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. He stands alone, facing down the entire group. Well, so much for his quiet, introspective walk. The fairy yells back, clearly panicked by the situation. Ramon calmly asks the men to release his tiny friend. The captors just stare back, wondering who this kid is. Their leader smirks, saying they have their own lives to worry about. Ramon is genuinely confused by their reasoning. The leader just waves him off, telling him to leave. He claims that since the demons lost, their allies are fair game. Ramon realizes talking won't solve this, and he's unarmed. One of the thugs draws his blade, threatening to end him, but Ramon simply crosses his arms, completely unimpressed. The fairy screams at him to run for his life. The leader just laughs, enjoying the boy's foolish bravery. But in a flash, Ramon grabs him by the face. He sends the man flying back towards his crew. The thug slams into a rock wall with brutal force. And just like that, the leader is out of commission. The fairy is left completely speechless. The other men stare in shock, questioning what he is. Ramon explains he's used to being around powerful beings. He grips the thug's sword, ready for the next move. He weighs the blade in his hand, judging its quality. One of the thugs steps up, eager for a real fight. The man holding the fairy tries to negotiate a deal instead, but Ramon's smile is anything but friendly. Another thug lunges from behind, aiming for a fatal blow. Ramon's eyes flash with cold, deadly focus. The attacker freezes mid-strike, his face filled with shock. Ramon's hand is already at his throat, stopping him cold. His grip tightens with immense, crushing pressure. He gives a strained smile, as if worried about making a scene. The second thug crumples to the ground, defeated. The final captor stares in disbelief and terror. He decides to cut his losses and make a run for it. But Ramon is already in pursuit. His expression is cold and unforgiving. The man glances back, his eyes wide with fear. In an instant, Ramon closes the distance, yanking the man back with incredible force. The fairy is sent flying from his grasp, and Ramon just casually prepares to catch her. He catches her with surprising gentleness. She sits in his palm, asking if he's all right. She then stammers out a flustered thank you, but Ramon's attention is already elsewhere. He looks down at the last thug, wondering what to do with him. The fairy suggests just leaving them for the monsters to find. Ramon gives a nervous smile, a little taken aback by her ruthlessness. Suddenly, she seems to have an idea. She declares that she will now accompany him on his journey. Ramon is completely baffled by her sudden decision. She explains that since humans found this place, it's no longer safe for her. Ramon considers her logic, realizing she's right. He warns her that he has no destination, but she insists that's fine. In fact, she's practically vibrating with excitement to get going. She formally asks to be his travel companion, and he gives a resigned smile. He extends his hand and finally introduces himself as Ramon. She gently takes his finger, telling him her name is Naiad. Now that they're officially a party, she asks where they're headed first. Ramon looks to the horizon, hoping he might find someone he knew along the way. The scene then shifts dramatically to a dark castle, 1,000 years in the past. A beautiful woman with pointed ears sips her tea, looking thoroughly displeased. She's sitting across from a much younger, more innocent-looking Ramon. With a sharp glare, she asks him if he's some kind of idiot. Ramon is caught completely off guard by her greeting. He just smiles, asking his old friend Silfie what's gotten into her. She insists that an idiot can only be called an idiot. Well, she's not wrong. Our boy is completely lost, having no idea why she's so upset. Her gaze hardens as she gets to the point. She heard a rumor that he became the supreme commander of the demon army. He confirms it's true as she grabs his sleeve, trembling with emotion. She slams her hand down on the table in frustration. She insists that a human has no place leading the demon army, and that the demons would never accept his command. Ramon just asks if she feels the same way. She reluctantly agrees to work with him because of course she does. But her expression quickly turns serious once more. She asks if he understands what this appointment really means. He leans back, realizing he's being set up to be the fall guy. The demons will curse him for their inevitable defeat, and humanity will execute him as a traitor. Silfie asks why he would accept a role that guarantees his doom, but Ramon just smiles, saying he has no intention of losing. He knows that if the demons fall, they'll be enslaved by humanity. Silfie looks at him, her heart heavy with concern. He tells her not to worry, as he doesn't plan on dying either. His confidence seems to leave her completely speechless. He even suggests they could travel together if things go south, but she flatly refuses, not wanting to be seen with a war criminal. A rejection so brutal it leaves our boy absolutely shattered, though her slight smile suggests she might just be teasing him. Ramon is stunned, insisting it was just a joke. But Silfie relents with a gentle smile, agreeing to go with him. Her only condition, that he doesn't die. The memory fades, returning to the present day. Silfie floats in a secluded lake, lost in that nostalgic dream. She thinks of Ramon, the liar who never came back. He promised to run away with her, but he never did. She lists all the things that annoyed her, which sound an awful lot like compliments. She wonders why he ever chose to confide in her. But her solitude is broken by an approaching voice. A group of soldiers appears on the shore, interrupting her thoughts. Her expression immediately sours at the unwelcome intrusion. Their leader gawks, commenting on the beauty of a water spirit. She tells them to stop staring, clearly disgusted by their presence. He offers a fake apology, claiming it's his first time seeing one, but his leering smile tells a very different story. Her patience is clearly wearing thin. She tells them to leave, her voice laced with contempt. The leader's tone shifts, blaming their loss on humanity's greatest traitor, a name that makes Silfie pause and listen intently. The leader claims that because of this traitor, humanity now rules the world. He then tries to connect with her over a shared dislike of Ramon McKnight. Silfie remains silent, her thoughts hidden. She turns away, dismissing them as a lost cause. She admits she never cared about the war's outcome, only about protecting the peace that Ramon had wanted. The leader, having missed her entire inner monologue, is just confused. But Silfie has already made her decision. A sudden blast of water sends the soldiers flying into the air. Her eyes gleam with contempt, judging them as worthless fools. The soldiers are sent sprawling, completely overwhelmed. They lie defeated on the ground, unable to fight back. The leader can only stare in utter disbelief. Silfie informs him that challenging a water spirit in her element is a fatal mistake. He desperately tries to plead for his life, but her eyes show no hint of mercy. His pleas for help echo through the clearing. "Yeah, I don't think anyone's coming, buddy." With a simple gesture of her hand, she summons a torrent of water to finish the job. The man's terror is the last thing he feels before being submerged. The man's face is a mask of pure terror, but Silfie's expression is one of cold fury. He scrambles backward, away from the water's edge. He tries to threaten her, warning of his lord's retaliation. Silfie pauses, considering this new complication. He tries to appeal to their shared humanity, spouting nonsense about demons. She dismisses his words, comparing his idiocy unfavorably to Ramon's. But a sudden sound catches her attention. She turns, asking if he brought reinforcements, and fires a concentrated blast of water into the trees. The blast tears through the trees with immense force, sending someone tumbling to the ground nearby. Naiad zips around Ramon's head as he catches his breath. She comments on his less than graceful landing. Naiad turns to Silfie, asking if that was intentional. But Silfie's eyes are wide with utter disbelief. She stares past the fairy, her gaze fixed on the man behind the tree. Ramon just gives a sheepish wave, greeting his old friend. She can only whisper his name, completely stunned. And for a moment, the world just seems to stop. The memory shifts again to a much simpler time. Silfie lies beside him, smugly declaring that he owes her one. Ramon sits up, completely baffled by her statement. She just smiles, reminding him of the favor she just did. He argues back, asking how many times he's had to save her. But she just giggles, completely unfazed by his logic. Yeah, good luck winning that argument, buddy. She thinks for a moment, admitting she doesn't need anything right now. He asks what exactly she wants from him then. Her playful demeanor fades into something more sincere. She asks him to promise that if she's ever in trouble, he'll come and help her. The soldier looks back at the tense standoff between the three. He glances at the tree that was just obliterated by her attack, realizing just how close he came to that same fate. With Silfie's attention elsewhere, he makes a desperate run for it. She notes with annoyance that one of the rats got away, but her focus is now entirely on Ramon. She finds his resemblance to her old friend suspicious and demands his identity. She looms over him, ready to hear his story. Her interrogation technique could use a little work. Both Ramon and Naiad are completely overwhelmed by her presence. After hearing his explanation, she seems to finally understand. She finally accepts that he is, in fact, the real Ramon. He explains that he shared memories only the two of them could possibly know. Our boy just smiles, wondering how things escalated so quickly. Silfie rests her head in his lap, asking if something is wrong. Ramon tries his best to act casual, clearly flustered by the situation. Naiad, meanwhile, is having a full-blown crisis in the background. But Silfie's expression turns serious as she gets to the real question. She asks how he came back to life, but he admits he doesn't know. He remembers his final moments, certain he had died on the battlefield, only to wake up 1,000 years later with no memory of how. He explains that he'll travel the world to find answers, alongside his new fairy friend. Silfie mulls over his words, a sudden idea striking her. She declares that she should come with him on his journey. Ramon is left completely speechless by her sudden proposal. He just smiles, reminding her of a promise they once made. A promise to run away together if things ever went wrong. She reasons that since they're both still alive, the offer should still stand. Ramon grins, admitting he thought the promise had expired. Guess there's no statute of limitations on this stuff. His cheerful acceptance leaves her blushing and speechless. With her hand on his cheek, he agrees that it's time to go. She gently holds his face, her touch soft and warm. With a gentle smile, she agrees to travel with him. Ramon can only offer a flustered, heartfelt thank you. Naiad, meanwhile, is having none of this romantic nonsense. She complains about their public display of affection. Silfie's sharp glare immediately silences the tiny fairy. Our boy just sweats nervously, caught in the middle. But then Silfie seems to remember something. Naiad asks how the two of them are connected to the demon army. Ramon smiles, explaining they were once comrades. Naiad asks the question on her mind, why was a human in the demon army? Ramon stammers, trying to find a way to explain the situation. Silfie, however, looks thoroughly unamused by the topic. The tiny fairy immediately apologizes, thinking she's overstepped. But Ramon reassures her that it's not really a secret. He sheepishly admits it was all because of his first love. Well, that's one way to make a career choice. Naiad's eyes sparkle, completely invested in this new gossip. His confession only seems to make Silfie angrier. But before he can explain further, she cuts in. A memory shows a younger Silfie in armor, confirming it was something like that. Meanwhile, at a nearby lord's mansion, the soldier who escaped reports his utter failure. He explains that the water spirit was a powerful veteran of the Great War. The lord is stunned by this unexpected news. But his shock quickly turns into a greedy smile. He knows that a water spirit's tears are a legendary panacea, a prize that would earn him recognition from the entire kingdom. He even plans to use it to take control of the country. Dream big, I guess. He orders his man to capture Silfie by any means necessary. But back in the forest, our heroes are completely oblivious to the new threat. As Ramon and his new companion set out on their journey, an argument immediately breaks out from inside his pocket. Naiad demands Silfie respect her seniority as his travel partner. It seems both fairies and water spirits are rare magical beings, making them constant targets for greedy humans. So to avoid attention, Silfie has shrunk down, sparking a turf war in Ramon's pocket. But Silfie argues she has seniority, thanks to a 1,000-year-old promise. A technicality that leaves Naiad completely flustered. Suddenly, one of them spots something in the distance. A town appears on the horizon, their first destination. Silfie offers Naiad a piece of friendly advice. She warns the fairy not to show her face once they enter the town. Naiad is disappointed, having wanted to see a human town up close. Silfie bluntly reminds her that this is human territory. She explains that for beings like them, the human world is a dangerous place. Ramon sweats, realizing he's now the chaperone for two very conspicuous companions. They arrive in the bustling town, a place completely new to him. His first stop is a local shop to purchase a map of the area. The shopkeeper warns him that traveling alone can be dangerous, but Ramon just shrugs it off, saying he's looking for a way to pass the time. But their quiet stroll is interrupted by a loud commotion. A man is auctioning off captured demons in the town square. A bystander scoffs at the idea of anyone wanting them, but the auctioneer insists there's a surprising market for such things. He gives the chain a vicious tug, yanking a terrified young demon forward for the crowd to see. His eyes gleam with a cruel, predatory light. He throws the boy to the ground, saying a little damage is fine. Classy. The young demon can only stare up in absolute terror. He struggles against his bonds, completely helpless. The auctioneer boasts that the merchandise is durable enough to handle it. A man in the crowd looks on with genuine concern, but the auctioneer just grins, grabbing the boy's head. Ramon watches the scene unfold from across the square. He turns to the shopkeeper, asking if this is even allowed. The man notes he must be a foreigner, saying it's inhumane, but he clarifies that such laws don't apply to demons. Loopholes. Ramon pays for his map, apologizing for the awkward question. The shopkeeper just waves him off with a friendly farewell. From his pocket, Silfie explains that this is the world they live in now. She explains that for beings like them, showing their face is an invitation for capture. Ramon looks on, realizing the fate of these demons is far worse than just slavery. Naiad is horrified by the scene unfolding before them. She turns to Ramon, asking what he plans to do. But Silfie points out that a simple rescue won't solve the core issue. As long as they're in human territory, they'll just be enslaved again. She warns that to truly save them, he'd need to change the world itself. But Ramon just smiles, touched that she's still worried about him after all this time. He admits he has no intention of making a grand scene. After all, a dead man has no business meddling in the affairs of the living. But he adds that there is one small condition. He glances over at the price tags on the ground. The demons are being sold for a hefty sum. The auctioneer's smile widens, thinking he's found a buyer. But Ramon clarifies that he has no intention of purchasing anyone. He gives an apologetic smile, saying he feels bad about this, which leaves the young demon completely confused, as he draws his sword with a sharp metallic ring. So much for not meddling. The auctioneer's face pales, realizing the man's true intentions. He flinches back, his bravado completely gone. He smiles cheerfully, announcing that this is a robbery. The entire crowd is left completely dumbfounded by his statement. Panic erupts as the townspeople scramble to get away, but Ramon remains perfectly still, watching the chaos unfold. Soon, only he and the captured demons are left in the empty square. He gives a slightly awkward smile, as if he hadn't expected it to work so well. Naiad, however, is absolutely thrilled by the turn of events, and Silfie just gives a smug, satisfied smirk. Guess she approves of his methods. With a single clean strike, he shatters the boy's chains. The young demon can only look up, whispering a heartfelt thank you. Ramon tells the boy not to worry, saying he acted on his own. One of the other demons asks why a human would ever help them. He just smiles, admitting he's something of an outcast himself. He then asks the freed demons to give him some space. He announces his plan to escort them all to demon territory. But his sharp hearing picks up an incoming threat. Suddenly a woman appears, erecting a barrier of fire. The magical shield deflects a volley of incoming arrows. She stands confidently, her magic swirling around her. She asks if he was protecting the others at his own expense. Ramon denies her claim with a nervous smile, but her eyes narrow, sensing an approaching threat. The sound of marching feet echoes through the square. A squad of town guards quickly surrounds them. Their leader demands that Ramon drop his weapon and surrender. The woman notes their quick response, musing that the local lord must be competent. But Ramon just brushes it off as a coincidence. She turns to him, finally asking who he is. A man in fine clothes steps forward, introducing himself as the lord of this territory. Ramon and his new followers are now completely encircled. Ramon notes the lord's quick movements with a casual smile. The lord explains his men recently failed a mission, so he had troops ready. He adds that he came personally to capture the water spirit. But first, he has to deal with his duties as the local ruler. He accuses Ramon of threatening a merchant and demands his surrender. Ramon calmly points out that the Lord's men were just shooting arrows at them. The Lord dismisses the attack, saying if they died, it was their own fault. But the mysterious woman steps forward, grabbing Ramon's arm and refusing. She claims she must travel with him because of an ancient promise. The Lord is left completely stunned by this unexpected development. She declares she's heard enough of his pointless speech. And with a single gesture, she unleashes a devastating attack. The blast tears through the square, sending soldiers flying. She stands amidst the chaos, looking thoroughly pleased with herself. Ramon can only offer a nervous smile, completely bewildered. She turns to him with a sharp glare, asking if he has a problem. The Lord is stunned, noting he thought her kind was weak against water spirits. A comment that leaves both Ramon and the woman completely surprised. He reveals a specially crafted arrow, designed as a countermeasure. He just regrets not having enough of them for everyone present. The Lord once again demands their immediate surrender. He smirks, threatening to use his special anti-water spirit weapon. The mysterious woman looks down, completely unfazed. She asks if he truly believes that Trinket can stop her. He points out that she's at a disadvantage without a water source nearby. Her expression remains cold and unreadable. The Lord decides to put his theory to the test, and gives the order for his men to attack. But a sudden blast of dark energy erupts from the ground. The woman's eyes widen in complete shock. The dark energy tears through the soldiers, sending them flying. The woman looks down, realizing Ramon has stepped in front of her. He stands as her shield, his hand still crackling with dark power. The Lord stares in terror, demanding to know what he just did. Ramon looks at his own hand, feeling the residual energy. The woman reminds him that she was supposed to be the one protecting him. He just smiles, admitting it was pure instinct. His simple answer leaves her blushing and at a loss for words. Naiad teases her for enjoying it, earning a sharp glare in return. The Lord can only stammer, completely lost in the sudden turn of events. The Lord frantically orders his men to use their magic device, but his soldier reports that it's still recharging. The Lord's face twists in horror at this realization. Just as a massive torrent of water erupts from behind Ramon, Silfie appears, declaring their expensive tools are useless against her. The fire-wielding woman takes cover, the soldiers completely overwhelmed. The Lord can only seethe with rage at this turn of events. Silfie stands beside Ramon, asking if they can finally leave. But the Lord refuses to back down after coming this far. He vows that he will not let his prize escape. Someone's feeling optimistic. The Lord activates a glowing gem on his gauntlet. The mysterious woman tosses a small object toward Ramon. A blade cuts through the air with blinding speed. But it's blocked at the last second. Ramon easily parries a strike from one of the guards. He offers the man a simple deal. Let them go and he'll do the same. The fire wielder watches as Ramon clashes with another soldier. One of the freed demons asks if all human nobles are this strong. Silfie admits that while he's doing well, his opponents are just weak. The fire wielder remembers how Ramon always charged to the front lines, and somehow always came back. The Lord struggles to block Ramon's strike, his blade trembling. He's already sweating and out of breath from the effort. Ramon calmly asks if he's had enough yet. The Lord can only curse, completely outmatched. He screams in frustration, demanding to know what Ramon is. But Ramon just answers with another powerful swing. A single decisive strike that ends the fight. The Lord's face is a mask of pure disbelief. His sword shatters into pieces before his very eyes. Guess he should have invested in better equipment. Ramon stands over him, the victor of their brief duel. Ramon gives a calm, satisfied smile. His companions look on with pure admiration. The freed demons can only stare, completely awestruck. The fire wielder urges them all to make a quick escape. The scene then shifts to the grand royal capital. News of the robbery has already begun to spread among the nobles. They question why anyone would risk their life to save demons. But one man's expression hardens at the mention of red hair. A description that sends a wave of shock through the entire room. They argue, refusing to believe the dead could have possibly returned. He warns that if the red-haired man has truly returned, another war could be on the horizon. The scene shifts back 1,000 years, to the eve of the final battle. Ramon looks down at the overwhelming number of human soldiers. He notes the sheer size of the force gathered against them, but a voice beside him calls it a fitting stage for the final battle. He turns to see Renate, the demon lord's daughter. He teases her, asking if she should be slacking off at a time like this. She just smirks, pointing out that he's the supreme commander, a fact that leaves our boy wondering how he got roped into this mess. Her fond expression suggests she's more than happy to have him there. She wonders where the humans get their resources, but Ramon knows their own army is outmatched. He reminds her he suggested they relocate their base before things got this bad, but Renate simply says it couldn't be helped. She declares that her father, the demon lord, must face humanity with honor. She gives a wry smile, admitting it's a pain to be stuck with him. But she has no intention of running away from this fight. Ramon notes how different she is from her father. She just shrugs, saying everyone is their own person. A surprisingly modern take for a demon princess. He then urges her to escape while she still can, because it's time for him to step onto the battlefield. She asks if he's really going to a battle he can't possibly win. He just smiles, promising to try his best not to die. She tells him to run so she can hunt him down later. He just smirks, teasing her for her tough love act, a classic move. She plays along, saying it's too soon to tell. With a final wave, he prepares to leave. He walks alone into the light, towards the final battle, and just like that, her eyes snap open. The memory fades, returning to the present day. She sighs, lost in the memory of that nostalgic dream. She thinks of his promise to run, a promise he never kept. But her quiet moment is shattered by the sound of frantic footsteps. Two young demons rush to her side, calling out to their princess. She scolds them for being so loud, but they just offer a cheerful apology. She asks if they truly understand the gravity of their situation, but they're far more interested in the latest gossip they found. One of them holds up a newspaper, pointing to a familiar red-haired man. Renate's eye twitches, her calm demeanor completely gone. She can only whisper his name, unable to believe what she's seeing. A few days later, smoke rises from deep within a forest. They've made it deep into the forest, far from the Lord's territory. Ramon hopes this little incident doesn't make him a wanted man. Naiad, meanwhile, struggles with her share of the supplies. A fairy's work is never done. But Renate's attention is focused on their new followers. She notes the freed demon's ungrateful attitude. They watch Ramon with suspicion, their distrust clear. He just smiles, admitting he can't blame them for not trusting a human. Renate leans in close, teasing him about his robbery announcement. The sudden intimacy leaves one of the young demons completely flustered. Renate just smirks, asking if he can't do something about the awkward tension. Renate's sharp gaze falls on the young demon, asking if he has a problem. The boy can only stammer, completely intimidated by her presence. Naiad asks why Ramon isn't stepping in to help. She complains that she's surrounded by fools. Looks like the honeymoon phase is over. Ramon just seems confused by the entire situation. As they continue their journey under the moonlight, the narrative shifts back to the Fourth Great War. While humanity ultimately won, the demon army had its own victories. But for every tactical win, they suffered a strategic loss. And the blame for every failure was placed on one man's shoulders, a memory of a fierce demon general, laughing in the face of his enemies. A young soldier enters Ramon's office, bowing respectfully. Ramon lets out a weary sigh as the door closes behind him. The soldier asks if Ramon was being berated by his superiors again. He finds Silfie and Renate waiting for him in the hall. He reports that despite their victory, the losses were heavy, and the blame is already being passed around. Ramon just tries to brush it off, a management style that clearly isn't working for everyone. Silfie's frustration finally boils over at his casual attitude. She argues that he's the one winning battles, not the commanders who criticize him. He tries to calm her, reminding her that the chain of command is absolute. Renate suggests that Ramon should just take command from them. She even offers to help him beat them into submission. Ramon is stunned by her casual suggestion of a coup. But Silfie grabs his arm, declaring she never planned to serve the demon lord. Her loyalty, she insists, has always been to him. Renate just smiles, finding the entire situation amusing. She admits Ramon is far more interesting than the current leadership. Looks like our boy has a fan club. But their conversation is cut short by a heavy footstep. A massive demon general steps forward, asking what the interesting discussion is about. He grins, saying he wants in on whatever they're planning. The general introduces himself as Lift. He says he was getting tired of taking orders from anyone but Ramon. Ramon just looks exhausted, asking what a Ramon faction even is. Lift points out that he, Silfie, and Readoki are all part of it. Silfie looks away, completely flustered by the accusation. Readoki calmly explains that with the current leadership, a coup might be their only option. Ramon wonders why the princess is the most enthusiastic about treason. She insists it's for the good of the demon race, asking if he's truly ready. She believes he has the power to take control of the entire army. Lift cracks his knuckles, offering his full support if Ramon gives the word. Silfie asks if she should be ready for either outcome. Ramon takes a moment to think it all over. He reminds them that their true enemy is humanity, and that a coup would only divide their forces even further. Lift tries to reassure the others, telling them not to worry. Ramon just smiles, saying he'll find a way to make it work. Famous last words. The scene shifts to Lift's office, where a soldier asks to continue his report. The lizard-like soldier salutes, ready to proceed. He announces the successful rescue of a captured comrade from the battlefield. Meanwhile, the other commanders celebrate their righteous victory over humanity. Lift just sighs, clearly annoyed by the whole situation. The other commanders look on, one of them speaking up. Lift warns them not to underestimate humanity. But the other demon scoffs, insisting on their own superiority. Tired of the argument, Lift just waves them away. The commanders grumble as they leave the room. The door slams shut behind them, leaving him in silence. He kicks his feet up onto his desk with a heavy thud. He wishes Ramon had just taken over for him back then. Hindsight is 20/20, big guy. The memory fades, returning to the present-day journey. The sun shines down on their long journey. Ramon remarks that this is far more peaceful than his old life. Naiad wonders what part of their recent adventure he considers peaceful. She reminds him of the robbery and the fight with the local lord. Small details, really. He just smiles, saying his time in the demon army was nothing but war. A fact that leaves the tiny fairy completely speechless. But their conversation is cut short, as one of the demons points ahead. They've finally reached the fortress marking the edge of demon territory. An older demon explains that humans rarely dare to cross this border. The others celebrate, overjoyed to finally be home. But their celebration is cut short as the fortress gate rumbles. It creaks open with a heavy, ominous sound. One of the demons looks on, wondering what's happening. A squad of heavily armored soldiers marches out to meet them. They order the entire group to halt in their tracks. The soldiers identify themselves as the border guard, demanding to know who they are. Ramon just sweats nervously, realizing this might be another complication.